There's something on my card here that I feel like I knew, but then I forgot.
Okay.
It says you entered the Miss New Jersey competition.
Oh, yes, I did.
I'm Hank Green, and here at Study Hall, we want to know how people learn and how different people's college experiences affected their lives and careers. We are talking to people about that, and today I'm talking to comedian, actor, YouTuber, and all-around awesome human, my friend, Grace Helbig. We're talking about her life, her career, and her college journey.
Hello, we are here in the beautiful historic lobby of ASU's California Center in downtown Los Angeles, and we are here also with Grace Helbig, one of my dear friends, who we've been working together and known each other for basically the whole time we've made content on the internet.
Yeah, well over a decade at this point, which is wild.
It is.
Yeah. So thanks for having me in a new setting like this.
Isn't it fun?
We're usually shooting something in like some dusty room in my house or some studio that we've rented. This is when you get invited to one of those Green Brothers projects. This is what you show up to.
They bring you out, they put eyelashes on you.
They put eyelashes on me. They put me in this I'm on the set of Bridgerton right now.
Yeah. And we got you a worm sweatshirt.
Yeah. They let me wear my worm sweatshirt. I haven't talked to people in a while. So.
What are you up to right now?
Oh, not much.
Yeah.
Not much. Purposely not much.
Yeah.
I'm taking a little bit of a break from making internet content. I'm working on a book right now. So trying to streamline my attention over there. Still podcasting with my friend Mamrie. This might get weird. Every Wednesday. And
You were wearing your own merch when you showed up for this.
Yeah, which I forgot and then realized and was like, this is kind of cheesy.
You're supposed to
that.
make it.
Huh?
But you're supposed to make it weird.
Right, exactly. But you know, that post-cancer life, bro.
I do know it.
Yeah, I know. I was just telling you before that I feel like an alien that's pretending to be a human because I feel like I've been hatched into the post-cancer life and being like, oh right, how do you do this again? How do you do life again?
I've been doing a different kind of life for a while.
Yeah. So, but I'm enjoying it.
Good.
Yeah.
But we brought you here today because we're talking to a bunch of different people about how they went through the process of education, whatever that is.
Yeah.
And we've talked to a bunch of different people, and the thing that it keeps making clear is like we imagine that there's like a normal way to do this, and yet everybody does it some different weird way.
Yeah.
But I want to start asking about your when you were a kid. Like, what was your relationship with school?
My parents
Were you a good kid? Tell me about your relationship with your dad.
I pay a woman on the other side of town to talk about this stuff. What was my relationship with education?
Yeah, were you a good student?
I was a people pleasing goody two shoes. So I really tried to be a good student, but education did not come naturally to me. I have an older brother and a younger brother that they can just recite facts. They are just naturally very. They have an aptitude for knowledge that I do not have. So I had to work a lot harder to try and maintain good grades, which I wanted to do because I wanted to be a good girl. And also I lived in South Jersey growing up and there wasn't a lot of opportunities for things there. So
what do you mean things?
I knew I wanted to work in a creative space, but I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do. And so you fantasize about things like New York City and Los Angeles. So I knew that my opportunity to potentially get to one of those places was through education. Yeah.
So were you thinking about those places as a sort of glamorous place that people go to do glamorous things, or were you thinking about specific things?
I had loose ideas of wanting to work, I think, in the entertainment industry, but not totally sure what I wanted to do. I loved writing. I loved screenwriting when I got into college. I loved video production when I got into college.
But as a kid, though.
But as a kid, my older brother and older stepbrother were really into comedy and were just naturally funny people. And they were very creative. So they would always make video projects for their school projects. And I just idolized the joy and the irreverent stuff that they would make, even though I didn't understand any of it. And I was really just attracted to that style of communication. So I think I was just naturally sort of like, I'm going to be a creative person. That suits me better. Like, no offense, I don't understand science, like at all. And so it just never clicked for me.
I'll get you there. We'll work it out. You
I
come
mean,
over once a week
you
and
can
I'll just
try.
teach you all of science.
Elliot, my husband, was trying to talk to me about atoms the other night, and he was like, "You really don't understand." I was like,
I'm off. Turned off.
I was like, I don't know. If there's a way to explain this in Real Housewives terms, maybe I'll understand it. But so comedy and creativity were like loose ideas that I wanted to pursue, but I didn't have anyone in my immediate family that was like an artist or chasing like a creative like lifestyle. So I didn't know what that looked like or how to do that.
It's interesting to have this sort of, that thing that my older brothers are doing
Yeah.
is definitely the coolest thing.
You have an older brother that
I have also had that sensation where it's like, oh, does John like that band? It's because they're the best band ever.
Right.
It's because they're the coolest thing that's ever existed. And then I get like way more into the band than John.
Well, I was also extremely shy growing up, and I was like riddled with anxiety without really understanding like my feelings at all. So I was very like to myself. And so when I watched my brothers do creative projects and laugh with each other, it was like the most freeing feeling that I had ever felt as a child. Like comedy is what started to connect me with other people and really like bring me out of my shell. And it became this like healing tool in some way. Like it was just like, oh, this is something I really enjoy. And I think I'm like pretty okay at this. Like, how do I keep this in mind? Like, I don't know, what do you do with a job in comedy when you're like 11, 12, 13 years old? You're like, how do I do that? I don't know.
I mean, it like many careers, it seems like something other people do, not a real job.
Yeah, so I was like, I'll just do what I know traditionally are the next steps that someone does. And the next step was I'm going to go to college and get into some sort of creative field there and then see what happens.
Yeah, so just sort of following the expectations. Did you have expectations when you were a kid on like grades? Like, was there like pressure to do well?
There was it was all self-induced, I think, pressure to do well. Like, I liked, like, when you're a very, like, I think maybe emotionally stunted kid, achievements become like the way in which you feel like you have value and worth. So I became like very much like, I'm going to get good grades. I'm going to do well at track. I'm going to have jobs. I'm going to like make money. I'm going to do all of these things.
You don't have to be emotionally stunted to have that be the case for you.
No, not at all. It's just a byproduct of growing up in an emotionally unavailable household. Is that like you become very achievement oriented, and it's not a bad thing.
Well, yeah, you're looking for some way to know that you matter.
Right. They're like, how am I special? How do I stand out? How do I get people's attention? But we weren't like a strict household in any way. Yeah.
So would you say you were a good student? Like,
I think I was good at being a student. Yeah.
Did you, so you did track and field, you said?
Yeah, I got really into track because my body is like 75% legs. And so it was perfect for doing hurdles and high jump in track. And so I got really into it. My high school is pretty small, so the teams that we're competing against, we weren't in the most competitive bracket. So like I was able to do pretty well at it.
Did you focus on that instead of team sports for a reason?
No, there's no particular reason. I had done gymnastics a lot growing up, and then I was like clearly too tall to continue doing that. And so I got into tennis, and then track just kind of came naturally to me. I like I said, my
just the
body
right
shape was more attuned to it, and I really did love the like independence.
Were you doing any creative stuff in that time?
Nothing. Like I tried out for our school plays and stuff, but they were, our school was very small, so it wasn't like a super prestigious situation. I got to play Helen Keller's mom in Helen Keller. So that was really exciting. But that's about as creative. I mean, I opted to do like creative projects and video projects and things like that. But yeah, there wasn't a lot of arts happening in our high school.
So when do you start thinking about college at this point? Is that sort of like, does it feel like a kind of an inevitable thing?
So my college story is that there were a handful of colleges I had gone to see, and the one that I ended up going to was called Ramapo up in northern New Jersey. And I had driven up in the winter because they had early decision days where you could basically go up and dress up all professional, bring your resume and all of the accolades that like you have, and you sit down with their faculty members and you do a series of interviews, and they tell you that day if you're in the school and how much of a scholarship they're willing to offer you.
That's wild.
Yeah, and
It feels like maybe we should do it like that more. This whole process of waiting forever sounds hard.
Yeah. I had a really, really unique college acceptance experience because we drove up with a friend of mine and her mom, and it was like in the snowstorm. So we were running so late because the school was like 2 or 3 hours away from where we lived. And so we kept having to call them to say that we're still on the way. Can you please like wait for us? And so we got there late and like rushed right into these sit down interviews. Like we're the last people there that they waited for us. And then we all like get lunch or whatever it was. And then afterwards they like give you these packets and they tell you what, they're willing to offer you, and they offered me a full ride.
Wow.
Yeah, so I was like, okay, I'm going to Ramapo. So I did.
Do you think that's down to the academics?
It's a mix. I try to diversify my portfolio, as they say. I took like 6 years of Latin we had it offered to us. The one weird thing about my high school is that we had an incredible Latin program. My older brother had taken Latin first, and my parents were like, this looks good on college resumes. So I started taking it in middle school and then took it all the way up through and was involved in the Latin club and that sort of thing. And was involved in a lot of clubs, like was on the debate team, wasn't really a debate team, like did track, wasn't really a full track team. Like there was a lot of things that looked good on paper, but the reality of them wasn't so robust. But yeah, I think I wrote an okay essay and somehow had enough credentials across the board that they offered me a full ride.
So that was a easy choice.
It was an easy choice. I mean, the school itself, I was like, you know, when you're that age, you have these dreams of like the college life you see in movies where it's like, oh, it's going to be frat parties and it's going to be cool. Like this college didn't even have a football team. Like it was a very small liberal arts college. And I think I had a pretty rude awakening when I got there. And I was like, oh, this is different than what I thought college was going to be like. Okay. And it ended up being really great, but the first couple of years were really, really sucky. Yeah.
Well, now I have to know about that.
It was just the adjustment. Like socially, they were really sucky. I didn't have any friends and I hated like the campus life. And I was like, this sucks. I want to go to NYU. I want to be like somewhere where stuff's happening and people are vibrant and exciting. And then I realized like there's so many untapped resources in our school. And because it's so small, like I can take advantage of them. So like I realized that I went in with a communications major, but all of the sort of classes that they made you take, I didn't want to take all of them. So I found this loophole where you can, at the time, you could do something called a contract major, where in the communications department, you could basically talk to the dean and pitch them on because they didn't have a writing major specifically. And at that point, I was really interested in screenwriting. And so I was like, I would like to do a communications major, but I'd like to like focus on writing. So can I choose these classes each semester? And basically you sit with the dean each semester and go through the classes you want to take. And they say yes or no, which was incredible. So I basically just got to construct my entire major.
Yeah, this isn't like that's the thing that is not that unusual. Like there's those kinds of programs exist at schools, but like which
Yeah.
schools have them, and it all comes down to the individual
See if your
department
schools-
and the school, et cetera.
Yeah, because I told a couple of my friends about it, and then they started doing it, and then until like 2 semesters later, they shut it down.
We're like, actually, that's too much work.
Not everyone can just come in and say they want to take these classes.
Yeah. So you didn't pick the school because they had like a program you really wanted.
No, I got in for free, so I
You
went
got
there.
the place, yeah, which is a great way to make the choice.
Yeah, which is so like after my first
You have the
semester.
option.
Yeah, after my first semester, I was like pouty,
Yeah.
like
Did you have like a pretty strong social group in high school?
no.
Oh.
So it was like I was very much a loner for a
Yeah.
lot of my young life, and so when I got to college, I thought everything would change like overnight, and it didn't. So I had literally like NYU applications filled out on my desk that I was like, I will go into debt so that I can go to a school that I think has more resources than this school. And then when I started to look into things like the contract major, when I started to ask teachers about like, can we use these resources? Like, I am so thankful for the college experience that I had, because I'd be swallowed up in a place like NYU. At Ramapo, I got to like really like work on things without like as much gatekeeping.
Yeah.
It felt like I really got to try things in a way that felt safe for me.
Did you stick with a communications major?
Well, technically, it was a contemporary
Right.
arts major. Like it was a
Whatever it became.
yeah, it was called a contemporary arts major with like a minor in theater, I guess. Yeah. Which I just took a couple theater classes and that was it. But at first I wanted to really, like I said, do screenwriting. And I had an amazing screenwriting teacher that was an adjunct professor at first, and then he became more full-time. And he and I started doing office hours and working on scripts together. And that was amazing. It was like another part of working or being a student in a school that feels like small.
Yeah.
Is that when you have a professor that you really enjoy, then you can actually
Yeah.
like take advantage of their resources.
And like, it's so easy. I think it's so easy to not do that.
Yeah.
To sort of like see that that opportunity is there, but there's just sort of like, it just seems like too high of a social burden to overcome. Like
Yeah.
there's like this like, oh my God, you want me to like go and spend like ask for this from this
Yeah.
person? But like that's their job.
Right, exactly, yeah.
It sounds like you were able to actually sort of, I mean, both like because it was available and like that they were sort of running you through it, but also it seems like you made a lot of conscious choices to take advantage of what was available.
Yeah, they're like the further, like technically I fulfilled all of my credit requirements 3 years into college, but I was like, I'm here for free, technically. Like I can either graduate and go out into the real world now, but my friends are still here.
Yeah.
So I'll just stay another year and take a bunch of classes that genuinely interest me and see what happens. And that's where I took like the video editing class, and I learned like basic, like, and then took a previous editing class that was tape to tape editing.
Great.
That
That's
was-
going to be super useful.
That was insane. That was so wild. And then there was a digital.
You did it just so you could know.
Well, it was like literally the next year there you had to, I think you had to take that class to get into like the digital editing class, which yeah, some of it didn't make sense. But again, our communications department, at least that this is like 2005, 6, 7, was so small that these classes were full of maybe like 10 people max or something.
That's cool.
Yeah. So there's a lot of individualized attention if you wanted it.
How did you go from being like a person who kind of like was grumpy and didn't like that this whole thing was happening and didn't feel like it was working for you to like being a person who would find and take advantage of all those opportunities?
I think it was gradual over time. There
Yeah.
was like this feeling I always had when I was younger, this like desire to be seen but not wanting to be looked at, which is obviously how I found myself on the internet. Like, duh.
Yeah.
This like watching my brothers perform and like wanting to do that but being so fearful of it, and not having like a friend group at the time that felt the same way. And like the friend group that like I started to get in college was kind of assembled like one at a time, of like I met this one girl, Michelle, and she's also interested in video editing. And we're like the only two girls that are in this video editing class. And like we became fast friends and roommates. I met this kid, Andy, who was just like a stoner kid that I'd go to his dorm every Monday and he'd get high and watch 24. And then we'd write sketches when he was super high. And it was like this slow kind of collection of people. And the more I found myself like doing creative projects, the more I wanted to, it was just intoxicating. And so I started to meet people in my classes that also wanted to make stuff. And like, before I knew it, I had a group of friends and we had a sketch comedy team that made a sketch comedy show that ran on campus television. And like, slowly with my college roommate, we started making YouTube videos together, like by our senior year. I learned about improv in New York, and so I started taking improv classes in the city.
So you'd like outside of school, you'd take time to go into the city and
Yeah, I
take
took the train. Well, I started interning. That was the other thing too. This is where like my other like nerdy girl sort of thing kicked in. I was like, I'm gonna be really proactive in college. Is that I had 5 internships in college.
How did you?
Because I had the piece of paper that you get signed by your advisor to do an internship, and I just photocopied it and signed her name. So I only got credit for 1 internship, but I did 5 of them.
You were like, I'm not gonna get anything out of this.
Right, because Viacom like wouldn't let you intern unless you had like all the official paperwork. So I interned at like MTV and Conan O'Brien and Noggin and the N.
Wow, Noggin.
Yeah. I got to see dailies of Degrassi. This was like when people in the office were whispering that Aubrey wanted to be a rapper, and everyone was like, what's going to happen with that?
I don't know what that means.
Drake.
Oh.
He became Drake. Wheelchair
Aubrey.
Jimmy. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Pretty wild. But so I would take trains into the city to go to my internships, and then I would stay and do improv classes at night. And then back at college, this like group of friends that were also interested in improv, me and this other guy that was more seasoned, started like, we would teach each other like how to do it. And we created an improv show on campus called the BC. That was for Bergen County, where the school was located. So just like the OC, because that was huge at the time. So it was a parody of the OC.
Okay.
Yeah, I played the like hippie Misha Barton type of character, but her name was Autumn Morningwood. It was just like pure gold college humor, like right up the 19-year-old alley.
Yeah.
And we started doing like improv shows on campus, and then we also started like filming sketches. But with that, like our TV production classes were kind of small, and everyone sort of knew each other because we were all in the same like communications department, that when we came to our teacher with like an idea, like, hey, we have this comedy group or whatever, and we would love to be doing a sketch comedy show, they like restructured the syllabus so that we were producing episodes of this show we wanted to do as a class each semester, which was really amazing. A lot of weird pressure, but also like incredibly
That's really cool.
Cool, yeah.
I mean, that's a lot of work. That's also
Yeah.
a lot of sort of like social investment. It's a lot of risk to put yourself out there in front of the entire campus, to like go on TV, to be doing live shows.
No one really watched at all. Like,
People went to the shows. You didn't do it for nobody.
Yeah, that was really fun. Like on Monday nights, we have people like fill this movie theater, and we would do what in hindsight is terrible improv,
Yeah.
but it was just like this community gathering kind of thing that felt like really amazing. And I, at this point, was like finding my legs as a performer and realizing like, oh, I'm not as shy as I thought I was. And this stuff brings me joy. And also it brings people together.
Yeah. Was the transition of just like having to like run your own life hard?
Yeah, that was really hard. It was like, I got a lot of jobs too, to just like fill my time. And also I was like, I want to be financially like independent. Because I had this big idea of like, I didn't want to go back home once I left. And so
I went back home once I left.
there's
So-
no problem in going back
Yeah.
home. In my like, I'm getting out of here thing, I was like, I'm going to go and I'm not going to come back. So I need to like save as much money as possible. And so there was like yeah, there was a huge learning curve, still is, I feel like, as an adult, how to live life in a way that makes sense. But in college, I felt very like a late bloomer a little bit on figuring it out.
So when you uploaded your first YouTube videos, that was while you were in school, but was that really like uploading a YouTube video? Were there like views on those ever?
They were, yes and no. My first videos on my channel are college projects.
They're still up?
Questionable. They might be. I think I had to take them down because it's like, copywritten music in all of them. But yeah, the first handful of videos are all college projects. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
So you've uploaded some YouTube videos, you've done a bunch of sketch comedy, you've got all your credits done. What are you thinking is going to happen? You've committed to you're not going to move back to your parents' house?
Yeah. So then I graduated and I worked at Olive Garden. And I moved in.
Free breadsticks.
Yeah. And I moved in with a boyfriend at the time who was going to Rutgers in New Brunswick, New Jersey. And what eventually happened was I worked at Olive Garden for like a couple months. And then one of the last internship that I had, I had interned 2 or 3 times at that point in different departments of this company, that they basically like created a position for me because they loved me and I had put in so much work and I was like, so familiar with their teams and their systems that I ended up getting like, I don't even know what the technical like term was. It was like project manager assistant or something like that. And I got paid to work under these project managers that I really admired and thought were really great at a company that I thought was like really fun.
What did they make?
This was the N, which used to be Noggin. It was like Noggin and the N. Noggin was for the preschool, kindergarten age, and the N was like the Degrassi type of content that I don't know what else.
It was part of Viacom.
Yeah, this was all under Viacom. Yeah.
There's something on my card here that I feel like I knew, but then I forgot.
Okay.
It says you entered the Miss New Jersey competition.
Oh, yes, I did. Yeah.
Why did you enter the Miss New Jersey competition?
So
you woke up one day, you looked in the mirror, and you were like, God damn it.
Yeah, so one of the things that I did when I got to college and I didn't have any friends and I had a lot of free time because I didn't have any friends, was I tried to model.
Okay.
Yeah, so I got signed somehow to this like teeny tiny modeling agency in New York City. And it was terrible. And this is really what solidified that comedy was for me, is that modeling was terrible and I was terrible at it. And after the modeling, to go into the city, to go on auditions and go-sees and all these things while trying to do school was just like so cumbersome. And the people in that industry don't give a shit about you being educated.
No.
So the fact, like whatever they want takes priority. So, when maybe this was my first or second year into college, I was like, oh, I'll do the Miss New Jersey pageant. I think there was like an ad for it on my computer or something. And I remembered that a girl on my track team in high school was like Miss Teen New Jersey. And I was like, oh, if Sherry did it, I'll do this. I'll try this. It was one of the most comical weekends of my life. It was, I didn't like tell anybody that I was doing it. So I just showed up with like this dress from Sears in my boyfriend's room one day. He's like, what's that for? I was like, I'm going to do the Miss New Jersey pageant this weekend. Mind you, you have to pay your way in.
Yeah.
So
what's the sort of like, what's the best possible outcome of this? That you get noticed?
Honestly,
or
I don't even know. I don't know what I was thinking.
just a chapter in your book in the future.
I think it was like, I gotta make sure I hate this. When you're a young girl, you're like, I want to feel beautiful. I want to feel like desired. And this is, I guess, the way for me to figure out how to do it. I was the most like homely pageant contestant that was there. I went to like TJ Maxx and bought like a business professional outfit because you had an interview on stage. We had an opening number with scarves that we had to learn the choreography for. It was truly one of the most insane weekends that the whole time I was like, why are you doing this? But thankfully, like my roommate that I had, because you stay in this hotel and they like pair you off into rooms. There's like a pizza party the first night, I remember, and all the girls are going around being like, you're beautiful. Oh my God. Because everyone's competing for Miss Congeniality as the subtext of every social interaction that you have. So everything is the most disingenuous interaction you've ever had. So I like got a piece of pizza and went up to my hotel room, and my roommate was already just sitting in there being like, I hate this shit. I was like, me too.
Why do we do this?
And I was,
That's so weird.
It really, I think, is what launched my comedy career, to be very honest. That weekend was just like, what the hell am I doing? There was like one picture, I think, from it, because I've looked many times that was on the internet, and I cannot find any other proof that I was part of that other than my family did come because I told them last minute, and they were like, do you want us to support you? And they were cracking up the whole time. So it was, a real big confirmation of the direction I eventually found myself in.
So that was during college.
Yeah, that was, I guess, like sowing my wild oats, you know?
Just trying to
trying
figure
a
out,
beauty pageant.
just doing improv classes,
Figuring
doing
out who I
more
am.
internships than legally I should be allowed to.
Yeah.
And suddenly seeing if I might, in fact, be Miss New Jersey.
Yeah.
And then you would go on to the main one. Is that how that works?
Yeah. I guess I got into the top 10, which I thought was like pretty cool for having zero experience other than what TV had taught me growing up.
Yeah, you were one of the top 10 misses of New Jersey.
Yeah. Of 2004.
Better than what I was doing.
Yeah, but that was, I still question what was going on in my head at that point.
I think just like chasing after experiences, I think is worth it.
Yeah, I agree. And it's also what happens when you don't have any friends to like bounce ideas off of. I had no one telling me no.
If they had told you no, then you wouldn't have that one picture on the internet.
Yeah, that one blurry picture in a bikini. Trying to pose like the rest of the girls that have had posing coaches for years. Man, it is wild.
So you're working at the N. How did you? Is that when you started to make your own stuff?
Yeah, I was working at the N and I was doing improv in the city. My college roommate and I ended up moving to Brooklyn together, and she and I started our own YouTube channel called Grace and Michelle, and we would make vlogs of our experience in New York. She was a video editor, or trying to be a freelance video editor, and we would like have wine at the end of the day and sit in front of our iMac little eyesight camera and like quack a bunch of stuff at each other, and then trade off editing it to see who can make it like as funny as possible, which was really fun.
That's a great little training to like have a person you're doing it with.
It was awesome. It was like truly the definition of a hobby. Like there was no financial benefit to it at this time. We were both in other work experiences. And in my mind at that point, the traditional route to like comedy success was going on auditions in the city and to try to perform at the improv theater as much as possible, because you never knew who was going to be in the audience potentially. So
Is that what you were doing also?
Yeah. And then I quit my office job to wait tables so that I could have more time to go on auditions and free up my daytime schedule. And then I went on this audition for a web series called Bedtime Stories that was like children's stories retold as like sexy adult versions.
Oh boy. Somebody had an idea.
Yeah, it was hilarious.
That is one sketch, is what that is. And somebody was like, you know what this one sketch could be is a whole show.
Yeah, and they paid me for it. And I got hired to do it, and then that web series lived on MyDamnChannel.
Gotcha.
And
Which we should explain what that is.
Yeah, so MyDamnChannel at the time was an independent comedy and music website. This was kind of around the era when College Humors and Funny or Dies were popping up in association with YouTube, but they were like, we're focusing on comedy specific. And so the head of MyDamnChannel called me in after the Bedtime Stories series went up, and he was like, hey, you know, I'm seeing all of these talking head kind of vlogging things happening on YouTube, and I think we need a host for our website. And I saw what you did with your roommate, the Grace and Michelle videos, and I think you could be a perfect fit for it.
Yeah.
So could we do like a 3-week trial run where you make videos that like direct people around our website, but also you can create your own unique content? And then Daily Grace was born.
So when you were doing Grace and Michelle, did you know what you were like? Did you have any like things that you were watching? That
Yes.
You were saying like this is kind of what we're being inspired by.
We were watching a lot, like Wheezy Waiter at the time. We were watching Buck. We were watching you guys. I remember when we got into the partner program, we like immediately went and bought a bottle of champagne in the middle of the day and like celebrated because we were so excited that we could make 50 cents by editing and uploading a video now. So we started to see like this ecosystem evolve, and I was watching iJustine and Olga Kay and Phil DeFranco and all of these like people that were finding these niches and these categories and these these brands essentially for themselves. And so we just kind of kept making things, seeing what would happen.
Gotcha. So that it wasn't like sort of out in the void. You were aware of and paying attention to.
Yeah, once we moved to Brooklyn and we started making videos, we were like kind of inspired to make them more, to spend our free time doing them because of the world of YouTube was like developing. And also we didn't have TV or cable. So my primary source of entertainment was YouTube at the time. So it was all I was watching.
Which used to be weird. Everybody.
Yeah.
I remember watching you meet Wheezy Waiter for the first time.
Yeah.
And you said to him, "You're the reason I realized that comedy could be done on YouTube."
Yeah.
And he like cried.
Yeah, I remember seeing what he was doing and just being like, this is so clever.
Yeah.
And this is so authentic to him. And I just really, really love this. And there was something very, soothing and calming about like the intimacy of it, but it was also just very clever. And I thought that was so fun, and his sense of silly was so just like probably very reminiscent of my brother's, to be honest. And so of course I was like, this speaks to me. And so I was like, we got to do this.
But it was not like filming a sketch. He was making a video.
Yeah.
It was like inside of the genre of a YouTube video doing comedy. What a time. What a time.
And it was amazing too, because I was going on all these auditions. I hate auditioning, and I'm bad at it.
If you recognize Grace, it may be from the Home Depot commercials.
Yeah, honestly, I can't believe I booked a thing that helped me move out here. It was Lowe's, by the way, blasphemous. I was so transfixed by the fact, all of the introvert spidey senses start tingling, that like, I can do this at home. I have all of the resources. I have all of the material. I have everything I need to do this at home. But this like buzzy entertainment world is telling me I need these like gatekeeper people to tell me that I can do this. But no, actually these people are doing it, and we have everything we need right here. Like, it was like so incredible. It was so empowering to be like, let's go home. I'll go to this shitty audition and do a bad job, and then I'm gonna run home as fast as possible and turn on my camera and make a video.
And be awesome.
Yeah, and wear whatever I want and look however I want.
And be comfortable and like not cringy.
Yeah,
and
say whatever I want to say. Yeah.
So MyDamnChannel is like, you can be our like you can be like a cornerstone of our thing.
Yeah, they were like, hey.
Is that exciting?
Oh my God. The idea that you could make money, let alone make a living doing internet videos in 2008.
I
didn't know a single other person that did that. Even the people on YouTube, this wasn't like a thing yet. So when after the 3-week trial run, they offered me like a 2-year contract as an independent content creator.
So like you're an employee.
Yeah, you're an employee of us, so you're getting a salary, and these are your deliverables, which was 5 videos a week. So I was so like, I could quit my waitressing job, and I could wake up at home and get paid to like make the funniest thing I could think of every day. Like that was a dream come true for like 22-year-old me. So I made so many videos for them. I worked for them for maybe 4 to 5 years in total, and did 5 videos a week for them in that time period.
And that's like a mix of like recipe for burnout and a recipe for just constant creative grinding where you're coming up with new things all the time. Because during that period, you weren't just making a new video every day. You were making new like genres of video. You were like coming up with formats all the time to try and build inside of.
It was truly incredible because it felt like the well would never run dry. Like I felt like I was in a flow state for like 4 years straight. And it was like the most rewarding thing. Like a young, shy, silly girl gets paid to make silly videos at home with no one bothering her. Like, I wasn't religious, but I thought maybe there was a God at that point.
And not to spoil it, not to spoil this wonderful thing, but like there's also I have now made this channel. It is me. Everyone thinks of it as mine. But I'm an employee of this channel, and I don't own it. And you don't own the videos because you had created them. You know, MyDamnChannel paid you to make these videos, so it's their property. Your YouTube channel was their property. When does that start to become tense?
So I signed a 2-year contract, and then after those first 2 years, the videos only lived on MyDamnChannel. So we were like, we got to put these on YouTube. That's where everyone is. And so then Daily Grace got launched on YouTube, and that's when it was like, okay, I have a system now. Every day is a different theme, and I know the structure in which I'm working. And I can handle this all on the back end on my own. This is great. So in that 2-year window, like 2010 to 2012, is when YouTube really started to develop as like an ecosystem, and brand deals started coming into the mix, and people making money independently became more known. I met other content creators like Hannah Hart, and was able to like actually learn like how her business was structured and realize how dramatically different it was from what I was doing. And it was a really hard spot to be in because it's like I have this incredible dream job, but now this industry is different and I'm not really participating in it as it seems to everyone else.
Right.
And
you were in a very different situation than most creators.
Yeah, and so it became like okay, let's renegotiate contracts, and the negotiations did not go well. So I had to start over on my own channel. But you and your brother specifically, I remember, were able to message out to the community.
Because you weren't able to even like upload a final, like I'm moving to a different channel video.
Legally, I couldn't really explain anything that was going on, nor did I really want to that much, because I was really at that point like my only option is to start over. What am I going to do? I'm not going to keep doing this. And also, I've been the only person doing these. When I leave, they're going to realize like there's like I've been shooting, uploading, starring in, and editing, like everything. So like they can't own me. So I'll just take me and put me over there and do the stuff that I legally can do. And it ended up being amazing and like a true, I think, moment that reflected the power of the community at the time.
And also the difference between that sort of gatekeeper ecosystem and what was happening now. Like, I think a lot of people didn't realize the impact, like the depth of the impact that would have. The individual creators would have more power than they had in the old systems.
It was such a weird spot to be in, because it goes back to that thing of like wanting to be seen but not wanting to be looked at. Like it's like not wanting to like wanting to get married but not wanting to have a big wedding where everyone looks at you. Like I just didn't want to be in the middle of this drama. I didn't
Yeah,
wanna-
because you could have made it into, it could have been amazing content to like do like takedown videos, drama videos, and that like people love that stuff.
And I'm not a business-minded person. I was like, I just want to go and do my own thing and not be tied up in this anymore. If you guys, because we tried to negotiate fairly for like a year and it just like did not work. And so it was literally the only option that I had. So it wasn't like it was abrupt. It was just like, no, this is the last thing. So yeah, it was just like a while. And I just wanted to like move on without like much like a hullabaloo or whatever.
I feel like you've gone through a lot of the story here, and I'm noticing a theme of like things go really well when you're working with a small group of people. Does that like resonate with you? That's kind of your most comfortable spot?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think I work well when encouraged, for sure. I think I have a lot of self-doubt in a lot of ways, and the beautiful thing about YouTube was the innate collaboration in the beginning, like to meet creators and to work to raise all ships, like versus the auditioning process of like I'm competing technically against everyone that's in this room, and then you go meet creators and you're like, how do we work together? How can we do something together? And that energy was just like frenetic. It was incredible and inspiring. So like ideas seemed to be endless at that point. But yeah, I think having a group of like-minded, encouraging people very much helps facilitate the creative process.
Yeah, and it's instead of this like competition, there's still competition where you're trying to be funnier than the other person on stage with you.
Yeah.
But not in a way that's like in order to beat them. Like it makes it better for everybody.
Yeah, that was the beauty of improv. Like I didn't get into doing stand-up because stand-up is a very solo sport, which you would think would call to me, but improv was like we're all working together to build something and we're trusting each other blindly. Like, this is incredible.
But so you also said that you're like not a business-minded person. I remember having this conversation with you once where I was like, Grace, why don't you like start a business with this? And you were like, I desperately don't want to do that. And so like the difference between starting a thing that you're kind of in charge of versus having creative collaborations with lots of people who are kind of peers rather than employees. One is clearly calling to you more than the other.
Oh yeah. I'm not like a leader, you know? And finances, again, lumped in with things like science, not something I understand.
You don't want to be doing budgets.
No, I just want to be out here coming up with fart jokes, okay? I don't want to be bothered by the shackles of the man. No, it's very intimidating. I wish I was like more well-versed in that world. I think it intimidates me, and so I create space from it. But yeah, finding YouTube at the time we did, is like, I couldn't ask for a better situation. If I were to try and get into YouTube now, I would be dramatically intimidated by the space. Yeah,
it's super overwhelming and crowded now. Even non-YouTube places are.
Yeah. Content creation in general feels very oversaturated. And
Well, just because when we started, no one wanted it.
Right.
So no one
and
was
it was
trying
like
for
we
it.
were these islands of misfit toys that traditional media was like these talentless hacks in their basement making blah blah blah, and we're like, okay.
But one of us is Bo Burnham, so
One of us has talent. Watch him, and we're all gonna support him.
yeah, we're all going to be very grateful to have been on the same website as Bo.
100%. My God.
Did you have a moment where you're like, oh, I have a career, like I have achieved career?
You know, that's really hard for me. Like, I struggle now with even being like able to call content creation a job. I think that's what inhibits a lot of my creative process lately. I think for so long.
Just call me. I'll remind you.
I know, I do. I feel like I've had a few years here that have been like topsy-turvy in my brain and my reflections on the YouTube space in general. But the beginning was such a joy and such a gift and such like a dream come true, like truly hobby turned job. But I like couldn't really even recognize it as a job because it was just like play. There was so much play. And when the business side of it came in, then I had like agents and managers that handled that part so I could still play. And I think I still try to chase that idea of play, and I suffer because I don't recognize the actual business side of it enough.
Having gone down the business path, please make play
Well, that's what
a thing.
because there was so it was like this incredible like blossoming of opportunity that was like I'm still working to process all of it.
Yeah.
And so you get all of these incredible traditional opportunities like hosting a TV show, writing books, doing comedy tours, all of these things that are absolutely incredible. And then you get to a point where you're just like, what do I do now? I feel fragile creatively and emotionally, but I'm in this system now that encourages me to keep going.
Right, and it's almost a betrayal to not take the opportunity.
Exactly. That it's like, we're so lucky that this industry has expanded the way it has, and we've been given every opportunity we want, but it is also incredibly pressurizing at the same time.
Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah,
It's a weird thing
very
to complain about, but like it is a...
Because you don't feel like you can
Yeah.
complain about it, and that's where you really suffer.
Yeah, but so you decided to go back to school.
Yeah. Like I got real burnout and really fought against the burnout because I had been I prided myself on how I could just go with the flow and generate content.
Yeah, and you had those years where you made a video every day.
Yeah.
And you never, like, you just flowed through it.
Yeah, I was like in my zone. Like I found a calling, you know, and you're like, oh, this is what I'm supposed to do. Okay, I know how to do this and it seems to be working. Okay. And then when that feels like something that's not working, you're like, how is the thing that I love the most causing me pain now? Like, I don't even want to believe that. So I fought against it for a while. And then the pandemic happened. And I was like, I need a change. I don't know what's happening in the world, let alone with me personally. So I need to find, I think, structure again. And I found a really incredible graduate program that was a hybrid program, online and in person, and just sort of like fell face first into it to see what would happen.
Nice.
Yeah.
What happened?
Well, it reminded me of like trying improv for the first time again, of being like, okay, I'm interested in this, but I don't.
What were you learning about?
So it's a program called Depth Psychology and Creativity at a school called Pacifica Graduate Institute. My husband's currently in a PhD program there. We both kind of decided to start two different programs at the same school at the same time. I was really interested in psychology. I've always been interested in psychology. I think every person that's a comedian is sort of a psychologist. I mean, you're studying like human behavior and why we are the way we are and do the things we do. But so I've always been interested in it. But when I started looking graduate programs for psychology, it was all like organizational psychology. There was like 3 different categories, clinical psychology, and a third one that was like, I don't want to be a therapist and I don't want to work in HR. And so actually my husband's therapist recommended Pacifica, and it had this program that was originally called Engaged Humanities and the Creative Life, which is just a mouthful. But now it's reduced to depth psychology and creativity. And it was this really incredible program. I have a hard time like describing. Do you want me to read you what it is?
Sure.
Okay, because this is like really unbelievable. I wrote down earlier, like, so I was like, you're gonna ask about Pacifica, and I always have a hard time describing exactly what my program was, because it's, people hear psychology and they're like, you are going to be a therapist, but no. So this, I'm going to read you the description of the program, a little bit of it. This MA program's approach is broad, highly transdisciplinary, and satisfying for those who seek to combine intellectual exploration with creative expression, honoring Pacifica's mission to tend soul in and of the world. The program emerges from the depth psychological perspective that art is soul-making as it supports individuals who crave deeper levels of understanding and devotion in their creative lives. The program is designed for those who seek to live and work more intuitively, meaningfully, and expansively while fostering the same qualities in others. Sounds pretty fucking beautiful. So I signed up for that.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like alt, too.
Yeah. So it sounds like woo-woo-y, whatever, and to a very, very small degree it was.
Yeah.
However, it was so incredible. We're learning about C.G. Jung and depth psychology and studying the unconscious, and then we're also learning about different art making, like different ways in which the unconscious speaks through art and reflecting on our own creative processes throughout the whole experience. And it was just incredible to be in a program where no one had Instagram. Like
no one knew who you were.
no one knew who I was. One person did, but he's like a really good friend now, and I'm so thankful to have met him. I was so burnt out on my entire world being YouTube. Literally everything I did was like, is this content? Is this content? Like I didn't know who I was anymore versus who Grace Helbig, this persona character in a box was, and what I even enjoyed if it wasn't a means to make content. And so being in a program with artists that work in all different areas of art, like fine arts, writing, poetry, musicians, it was beautiful. And it was a bunch of people, probably like 20 or so people signed up for it. So again, fits my needs, small kind of individualized attention class sizes. And we were all there sort of under the same premise of being lost in our personal careers and in the scope of the world, and looking for some like connection in understanding ourselves and each other.
So a lot of times you go back to grad school and your goal is like career development. Like you're going to get a nursing degree so you can be a nurse, or you're going to get a social work degree so you can do social work. It sounds more like people who are in the midst of their careers going back to school to get some perspective or to just like do some human work.
Yeah, exactly that. I kept thinking like, this is going to be a means to an end. This has to be a means to an end. Everything has to be a means to an end. Like, what is this? What job am I going to get? How do I monetize this education immediately? So like the first semester, I was frustrated a little bit because I was like, I'm not getting how this will translate to me making better YouTube videos. Like, this is not working that way. And then I really had to let that go. And I was able to like do a lot of work reflecting on the YouTube space, my relationship to my own content, my own self and sense of self. And like that said, it really focuses on like the soul making aspect. And that's truly what I felt like I had lost my soul. Yeah. Like everything was just this superficial, like, let me just churn out this, quick hot garbage for you real quick. And I felt like I lost like all of my care about what I was doing. Yeah,
I mean, the pressure, there's so much that you're juggling that like the pressure of having to make the video, it comes down to like, okay, what's the way that I know how to do this quickly that's going to satisfy the needs of my audience, instead of asking like, what do I want to make today? It's a very different thing. And I totally resonate with that. So you go back to school, did that create any financial burden, any new problems?
Yes. Well, I really saved my money, I think, even though I'm not a business person.
You don't have to be a business person to be like, if I make more money than I spend, that's good.
As much as I was like, I'm not a business person, I always had this fear that the internet could go away tomorrow. Yeah. So like everything I made, I like saved as best as I could. So going back to school, I was like, well, this is now what I'm gonna pay for myself. Mm-hmm. So I kind of took my savings and put it towards school, but felt like it was the most like enriching way I could spend my money. Like, what else am I gonna do? Like go to Hawaii or something? Yeah. I don't know. And it was, incredible. It was like a slow burn for me too, because I didn't know much about C.G. Jung or depth psychology or like archetypal studies, like in any capacity before I went in. And the program itself wasn't as strictly academic as it was like self-reflective. And they gave you a little bit of like literature, philosophy, art, like got kind of an overview of a lot of really interesting stuff that I would never have looked at on my own. I was so scared to go back to school too. I hadn't been in school in 15 years or so. So I was like, do I even know how to do school? Do I want to write papers and like have reading assignments and do all of that? And so I was super.
I have nightmares about it.
Yeah.
So I don't think I do.
By my 16th paper, I was like, I'm done. So I was super intimidated going into it. And my memory of school is like, you be a good student. This is how you're a good student. And then slowly realized like, oh, a graduate program is about bringing you to the program. It's really about like, what do you have to offer? And so a lot of my papers reflected what we were learning, but as it pertained to the internet space or the growing new media space or my experience as a content creator. And it felt so great to be able to write about that kind of stuff from my own, unraveling of things.
Yeah, I think about this sometimes where like the things that I know now and what I do know a lot about because of the career I've had would make a number of degrees very interesting.
Yeah.
I feel like there's a lot of research that is yet to be done on what this is doing to our minds. And so I think as a person who sort of lives and breathes it would be really, like I have a lot of unanswered questions that I think that there are methodologies you could bring to those questions, but I'm kind of too busy to be thinking about that.
Outsource.
I know people are working very hard on all kinds of good research in that space.
Yeah.
So what do you think your like biggest takeaway from college? What's the biggest thing you learned?
College, not my graduate program.
Yeah.
College. The biggest takeaway in college, honestly, was the idea of taking advantage of resources that are given to you. Like I said, I took as many internships as I could because I knew that you couldn't learn real life experience in a classroom. Like I had to be out in those office settings and working on those different projects to gain more knowledge so that when I do enter the workspace, I have some credit behind me. And like, we had tons of camera equipment on campus that no one really rented. So like my roommate and I rented it so often that the guy that ran the media equipment place, the cage we called it, he gave us his spare keys because we were there so often and we were the only ones constantly like renting everything. So like when you get out of school, stuff's not free. So like take advantage of as many free things as you can in that container.
That's interesting. Well, one of the themes that keeps coming up in these conversations is that very thing. And it comes out kind of in the form of like, when you're in college, you're in charge now. Like you are making the choices. You are now an adult.
Yeah.
And like you get to decide what you get from this experience.
Yeah.
And like there are limitations to what resources are available. They're going to be different at different schools.
Yeah.
But and this is all of life, is like figuring out what tools you have available to you.
Yeah.
And then what problems you're trying to solve for yourself or others.
Yeah.
And how to can you bring those tools to those problems?
100%. I mean, and with that, like interning, I think is invaluable. You might think that it sucks to give free labor to a situation where you end up working really, really hard, but I can't say enough great things about, especially in the creative space, in the world of entertainment. Interning is like just learning to be on a set, learning to be in a setting with producers, and just watching the dynamics of like interpersonal relationships is so invaluable.
Yeah, I got lucky after school. One of the many sort of like 10-hour-a-week jobs I had was working at the community access station in Orlando. And just like knowing how to coil a cable, knowing like the words that people use, knowing like the kind of respect that the station director wanted, which isn't the kind of respect that like a professor would want, but it is a kind of respect that I was unfamiliar with granting. And the like just getting the vibe of all of it.
Well, also know your value as a young person coming into a space that doesn't have maybe as many young people. Like, I worked, one of my first internships at the end was in their writing department. And so because I was the age group that was technically the demo for their television network, I got to read scripts before they got handed off to the development execs. And they would ask my opinion on whether I liked the show or not. And if I did, they would read that one first over others. So it was like take stock of your value.
What's next?
Oh, $64,000 question. Well, I'm writing this book, and I think this is now just becoming like a, threshold crossing thing for me personally to just get it done. Whether other people like it, that maybe doesn't matter as much as this just being something that I'm doing for me to get finished. But then I also extremely inspired by your stand-up. I'm slowly working on my own live show.
Are you doing a cancer show? Because that's already taken.
Not specifically cancer. Turns out a few people have had cancer before. So potentially that, still podcasting, and just sort of like keeping it simple for now. Yeah. Burnout, by the way, lasts a long time when you've resisted it for a while. I feel like I'm still on.
Yeah, that's why I never experience it and refuse to acknowledge that it exists.
Yeah.
It's safer this way.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I thought too. And it works really well till it doesn't.
Oh God.
Yeah.
Terrifying. Well, Grace, thank you so much.
Thank you.
For spending a little time with me.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me. This is so nice.
Yeah.
And education is important, right?
We're all learning.
Thanks for watching this episode of College Journeys. We're all a little bit lost, but we can learn from each other. If you're working on your own college journey, whether that's just thinking about starting college, or you're in the middle of it, or you're thinking about going back, Study Hall has resources to help you. From our fast guides to help you understand different college majors, to actually signing up for college level courses through GoStudyHall.com, we can help you on your path.